everybody. Didn't really expect for my first YouTube video to be quite like this one, but maybe we'll start off with what the young folks might call an epic fail. I wanted to, for a long time I've kind of wanted to try the hobby foundry deal, you know, and cast some stuff in aluminum, maybe move up to brass and some other things. So thinking about the hobby foundry, really kind of wanted to go with the waste oil burner, because propane is expensive when you're a poor boy and you don't have a job. All kinds of YouTube videos about propane burners, many different styles. They all seem to be able to get them to work. I didn't follow any one style in particular all the way. Kind of took a little from here and a little from there and tried to throw something together to use as a waste oil burner. And today was my first attempt at trying to put some used vegetable oil into it and see if it'd light and burn and what it does and this and that and the other. This is November the 23rd, I believe. It's the day before Thanksgiving in the year 2016. Yes, it is Wednesday, November the 23rd. Like I said, day before Thanksgiving. It's about 45 degrees, kind of breezy. So I'm out here in an old lean-to shed that I got, and well, there's kind of some looking at it right there, I guess. I think maybe this old cart might have it someday. You know, the whole foundry on it, but for right now, you know, this is the burner that I built pretty much right here. Got a little squirrel cage blower on the end, and then I got an adapter and a pipe there, and you can see this other pipe is just sitting out in front on a couple of jack stands. I'll get to that here in a minute. The actual innards inside of there, don't know if I can get down here where you can see any end of that pipe there or not to see my jet and this and that and the other, but I should have got the gentleman's name probably before I'm talking about this, but the basic design of my nozzle here, I think his name is David. Got a couple different YouTube videos. Look them up. It calls it the Quickie All Fuel Burner. It's kind of loosely based on his design. So I've got air coming into the back here with a regulator. Got my oil line coming up. Got a valve here. There's a shut-off valve at this tank over here, and then there's also a valve here to try to regulate a little bit. And then, like I said, you can see here this little squirrel cage blower that I had. It's low RPM. It's not super powerful, but I thought it was something I could start with, you know, play around. 1600 RPM instead of the normal 1750 or 3400, but even at 1600 it almost doesn't seem that fast actually when the thing is running, but nonetheless, especially you know, we have this Australian fella. I really get a kick out of his stuff. I think it just says oil burner, but man, he seems to be able to just throw together anything and get them to just burn like crazy. And I seen when I first got this all constructed here, before I even had it mounted inside the pipe, I just had the basic nozzle assembly built. Put my regulator on, I cranked up a little bit of pressure there on it, and I was real surprised that when I would open the ball valve, there was a good suction here that I could put my finger over that fuel hose barbed fitting there, and I could feel my finger being drawn up against it. You know, it had a good pull. So that gave me a good feeling that it, you know, was going to draw fuel in. So the first thing I did was put that hose into just a bottle of water to see if what it looked like if it was atomizing and making a spray, and it was pretty good. You know, I was happy. I was impressed. It was spraying water, picking it up, blowing it through, everything looking all right. So I was okay. So this little short piece of heavy tubing was all I had of the heavy stuff. So I put my burner nozzle assembly inside of that. This is basically like a exhaust pipe here, light duty stuff, but I just got that tacked on with the flange to mount that blower there on the back end of it. Over here, before I poured my used vector, this stand has got a, you know, you can see it, maybe you can't see, but there's a cinder block sitting on top of this thing, and I got a coat hanger wiring down the burner here just to, you know, it's not going to go anywhere. It's held there good enough. But this stand here with the wheels on it and the gas tank over there, I used to do a lot of small engine work, and that was a stand that I had whipped up to being able to test engines on and have a fuel tank. Nonetheless, I decided that I don't do much of that stuff anymore, and I'd like to have this foundry, if it ever comes to fruition, I'd like to have it, you know, on a portable cart where I can wheel it outside to use it and bring it back in, put it away, of course, when I'm all done. So I decided that, well, this gas tank here, probably about a 1 gallon tank, I think, as well, that can be my fuel tank, because I've read everywhere, you know, that you know, the vegetable oil, waste oil is safe enough fuel and non-volatile enough that as long as your fuel tank is a reasonable distance away from everything, you can refill a waste oil tank while your furnace or forge is in operation without it being a huge safety concern. So I took I checked the tank, is nice and clean. I took the shut-off valve out of the bottom of it. It did have a little kind of a short standpipe strainer screen type of deal, you know, up in the bottom of the tank here about as far as my thumb. Because it was a fuel tank, well, I removed that screen and everything so that it was wide open right off the bottom of the tank, and got this shut off here, and had clear tubing here towards the end just so I could kind of see what was going on with fuel and this, that, and the other. Another thing that I had noticed just playing around in the shop there, I could open up my regulator here, and before there was even the blower put on the back or anything, I could open up my regulator and open this valve up, just drawing air through there because no fuel was hooked up, but still there was enough air going through that if I held the lighter at this back edge, you know, it was making a good airflow through the pipe. Because a lot of them don't have a blower on the back, but the ones that I saw that did have a blower, it seemed like it was more intense directed flame, and that's kind of what I was after. So that's why, and I had that little squirrel cage blower, so I thought, what the heck. And it runs on 110. I've actually got an old cord that didn't have no cord on it, so I actually got a cord off of an old junk hair dryer that my old lady threw away that's got this kind of a safety thing on the end of it, but it can also act as a switch. If I push on the yellow button there, it's just like the on button. I don't know if I got everything unplugged over here or not. I must have. No, I'm not supposed to. Oh, wait a minute. I keep forgetting. Red turns it on, yellow turns it off. Duh. Kind of silly, but nonetheless, that does kind of like give me a switch. But there you go. You can see that squirrel cage is running. Even clear down here, you know, of course I don't have anything to hold up there, but I can feel a pretty good draft coming out. I just have the pipe clear down here at the end. But whatever, I had all that stuff rigged up. Thought I had my fuel line nice and wide open, so I was ready to go. So before I put my waste vegetable oil in there, I poured it through this strainer here. Funnel, put it into the tank. Then underneath of the tank here, you may be able to see I have like a chicken house brooder lamp down under there with a 250 watt heat lamp in it. So I turned that on. I had that mounted and I had that turned on because it's about 45 degrees here today and misty and gloomy day before Thanksgiving. It's not a very pretty or warm day. So I had that warming up the fuel, or warming up the tank so that it could warm up the fuel. And I have one of these Harbor Freight temperature probe gizmekis here. $20, but kind of tested. I checked the tank before I started anything, and the tank checked at about 52 degrees. And at that point of the day, it was about 50 out. So closer to 45 now. It's getting late in the afternoon. But nonetheless, you know, that seemed to be okay. So I left that on there long enough that the top of the tank was up to like 110 degrees, the metal on the top of the tank. And if I took the cap off and shone down inside, I was, you know, getting 125 or 130. So I thought, well, my vegetable oil is preheated where it should flow okay, you know, on a 40 or 50 degree day. So my fuel line was clear, open, worked on the shut-off, got rid of the screen and everything, knew everything was in good shape there. Drained my oil before I put it in, preheated it, get warm so it would flow good. Okay, so the next step in my process then was I just took the old propane torch here. So I lit up the propane torch, and in the beginning I didn't have this extra piece of pipe that I got sitting on the jack stands. I didn't have that, but I just held this down and turn on my regulator, open up the valve, and you know, I could even see mist. It was putting it out there, but I take this and hold it into the stream, and it, you know, it didn't light. It was not lighting. So I finally got percent. I mean, I tried, and you know, all different settings on my regulator for the air pressure, different open and close on the fuel valve, whether I was wide open or choking it down where it was getting less of a atomization mist or whatever. Nothing worked. It just wasn't lighting. So I finally, instead of just directing the torch into the mist spray that was coming out of the nozzle, I actually turned the torch in more to where I was putting it right on the nozzle. And after heating right on the nozzle for a few seconds, you could see that the oil was starting to light and starting to burn, and you know, you could tell the difference in the flame here. It was starting to burn some of it, but that was the only way that it would burn, was with this held right into it. And I held it for a long time, and it never did catch. Most everybody else I see, that even they do use propane or something to start them, it's usually a minute or less, and they can shut the propane off and the oil will keep going. Well, that just didn't happen for me. I had it for many minutes, probably 10 or 15 minutes, holding this torch into things. And once I got the burner and the nozzle kind of warmed up a little bit, if I held this right at the nozzle, it would burn oil, but it was not self-sustaining. I couldn't take this away and keep it going. So the oil burner, the Aussie dude that I kind of like so much, he's even got one video to where I saw that he basically just had a pipe squirting, you know, oil out the end of it with the air rushing through the tube, and it was pretty much right at the end of the tube, and then he had a second tube spaced in between, and he took an oil-soaked rag on a stick and lit the rag on fire and held it up in the gap in between the two tubes and kind of pushed it into the forward tube, and bingo, just like that, his oil burner's up and ripping and roaring and running. So that's why I went and got this other piece of pipe here that I had and kind of set it up on those jack stands out in front with a gap in between. Kind of got them lined up and pointed the same, and was holding my torch right in here. And things finally got hot. I had to turn it back this way towards the burner. Things did finally get hot enough that if I held this in there, it was burning the oil. And out here I was just getting heat flowing out the end of that pipe. I wasn't getting flame, but I wasn't seeing the mist or anything either. But as soon as I would pull the propane torch out of that gap, then you would lose the fire, and I would see my mist. You know, it was atomizing the oil and blowing the mist. I'd see the mist clouding out the other end of the pipe, but no burn. It wouldn't self-sustain. So my first try at making a waste oil burner apparently is what all the youngins nowadays call an epic fail, because it just didn't work. I fiddled around with the daggone thing for a couple hours here this afternoon, and there just ain't no getting it to stay burning. So I really didn't want a video like this to be my first one. I'm sure the light quality is terrible, or everything about it will be terrible, because I don't know nothing about uploading and editing or any of that kind of stuff. But I've also kind of thought that if I wait until everything is ship-shape and perfect before I make some kind of a video to post, if I'm ever going to do it, I'll probably be dead of old age before everything's ever perfect. So what the heck, I'll jump in and show you one of my ugliest, messiest places to work, and what appears to be a failure. You know, I haven't built the foundry itself yet. First, I wanted to have a functioning burner that I thought could do the job for me. Then I'll work on building the foundry, because I'm pretty sure by everything that I've read and this, that, and the other, I don't think I can afford to do this or play around with this hobby if I have to burn propane. And I don't even want to be messing around with charcoal in the blower. I was hoping for basically free fuel. I've seen plenty of other people make a waste oil burner work. At least it looks like it does on their YouTube video anyhow. So maybe I'll put this one up and somebody can give me the ideas as to what I'm doing wrong here, as to why this one isn't working, and what refinements I need to make, or whether I got to scrap and start all over, or what. I'd like to see a waste oil burner that would work for a hobby foundry, but my first attempt was a failure. So help me out if you can. Hey, if you'd like to see a redneck try to do things as cheap as possible, subscribe, Rick the Poor Boy, like. I'd appreciate it. Y'all have a good day. See you later.